but we can, I'll start the see. So the thing is this, ahimsa is very good, but ahimsa should not be identified with weakness and cowardice. It can easily be interpreted as weakness and cowardice, but it should not be. Okay, if necessary, you have to, the real ahimsa is absolutely the strength. Out of strength, you are not hitting back. Okay, this is the thing. So now I'll tell you several stories how force can be used without hatred, without emotion, without any disturbance in the being. Okay, so this is the whole thing. And when necessary, it has to be used. Force, even killing, has to be used, but in the right way. Okay, so I'll tell you one or two stories. Yesterday I was watching a video, very interesting video. I'll try and send the link to you. Very interesting. There was a, pardon? There is a lady, there are two ladies who are really very knowledgeable about Indian culture. One is Madhu Keshwar, I think her name is, okay. She is really good. And the other one is Sonal Mansingh. Sonal Mansingh was a very well-known dancer, okay. But she also has a lot of information about the Indian culture. So yesterday, Madhu was telling a story of how this, your Swadharma, makes you very gentle. In India, it is always in praise that you must be calm and quiet and you must always be well contained in yourself. And she told an interesting story which Sonal Mansingh may add an addition. So I'll tell you the story. One is a yogi, okay, he is having a bath in the river and then a scorpion bites him. So what he does is he takes the scorpion and throws it into the water. But when he throws it into the water, he sees that it is drowning. Okay? So he rescues it because of his gentleness and the ahimsa principle. How can I kill a scorpion? So he rescues it and brings it back again. But again it bites him. And again he throws it into the river. This goes on for 5-6 times. Okay? This is the principle of ahimsa. Okay? So then someone asks him, what is your problem? This scorpion is going on biting you and you are going on saving it. What is the point? Okay. Now this story that I'm telling you is very, very similar to what's happening in India with the Muslims. Okay. I'll tell you that later on because I saw a very interesting video today, what's happening in America also. So then he answered, look, the Swadharma, the nature of the scorpion is to bite. It cannot do anything except its nature. So it is going on biting. It is not doing out of anything. It is its nature to do that. And my nature is ahimsa. I cannot do any harm to it. This is the problem. So then Sonal Mansingh intervened and said that this is true at a certain level. But when you are attacked, okay, you can defend yourself and you can kill the enemy that is trying to destroy you. Why should you be destroyed? So, but you have to kill the scorpion without any hate, without any disturbance in the being, without any rancor, without any anger. Then it is justified. Okay, so there is the story. And now let me tell you, this is exactly what's happening in India, with all over the world actually, with the Muslims. They are intent on destroying other civilizations. They want to establish the Islamic civilization all over the world. There is a very interesting, today a document has come out in America where very clearly they are saying that that's our aim. Even in India, it's not very well known, but they want to establish the Islamic republics all over. Islamic religion must come back all over. Now, let me remind you again of Mahabharata. Okay, today what the Geneva Conventions are trying to do, the Geneva Convention saying in war, only soldiers have the right to fight with each other and kill each other, but not the civilians. Okay, and this they are trying to do, but it doesn't work out very well. Okay, but the Geneva Convention says that even when prisoners are taken, you cannot kill them. You have to treat them properly. Now, what happened in the Mahabharata? Imagine, okay, it is this concept was there so long ago in India. War starts with the sunrise. and bugles are blown and the war starts. And the war is between soldiers and soldiers, no civilians anywhere. Okay. And then at the end of when the sun sets, again the bugles are blown and the war comes to an end. Okay. So interesting. See how it is. The idea was there so long ago. And the interesting thing is that after the war ends, even the two parties, the opponent enemies, can visit each other. It is there also in the Mahabharata. They actually, the Pandavas go to the Kauravas and discuss something. Okay. So this is how it has to be done. Okay? And Sri Aurobindo once mentioned that when in 1942, Jinnah called for direct action and there were a lot of riots in Calcutta and many Hindus were killed. Okay? But then Sri Aurobindo answered, why aren't the Hindus organizing themselves for retaliation? But when you do that, it should not be out of anger and hatred and all. So our association of violence and war is usually with anger and hatred and rancor. Okay, that is the reason why we feel that war is not desirable. Of course, war is not desirable if these things are there. But there are many times when destruction is necessary. Okay, but it has to be done in this calm, quiet manner. Not easy, but that is what has to be done. So now you will understand the need of the Gita, where it says you have to do this, but you have to go to a higher level of consciousness where there is no emotions involved. In a very quiet way, you do the divine work. The divine tells you, kill your enemy, you will do it without any anger, without hatred, without any rancor, nor anger. So this is the idea. And the Muslims' idea is they want to re-establish the great kingdom that they had. When they started conquering from the Mongolian side, they overran entire Asia and they entered even Africa. And that's why all the African nations on the Mediterranean coast, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, are all Muslim. And then they crossed even the channel and went into Spain. Okay? And even in Spain there are mosques and all that they were. So there was a lot of invasion at that time. So Europe recovered from that to a certain extent, but they don't understand the danger. And they are applying the principle of equality for all and give rights to everybody. Minorities must be respected. But when that minority is trying to kill you, you have to wake up. This is what is important to understand. Okay? So now you will understand the need of war and why 3 chapters are there in the Gita on war. Okay? It has to be seen in the right way. Okay? So now, shall we start reading? Where should we read where are we in the Gita?
Page 42.
Okay.
The last para at the bottom.
Okay.
Moreover, every time we use soul force.
Yeah. Okay.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
In Belgium, they accepted a lot of Muslim refugees and there's a large population.
Yes.
Now what they have done is, they have formed a Muslim political party.
Yes.
And they have put up their Muslim representatives for election.
Yes.
So the Belgians they are very worried. If any one of them is also elected because of the vast population,
Yes.
and there are certain areas which are only Muslim, then they will demand Sharia law.
Yes.
So they are in a big soup.
Yes.
Okay, how to prevent a Muslim political party in Belgium?
That's right. It's all over Europe, this thing is happening. Okay. And it's very interesting. There's a very interesting research done by a European who said that this is what happens in all countries. And he has given examples also of Syria, okay, and also Lebanon. Okay. What they do is, they first of all, they are themselves very violent. But whenever there's violence against them, they bring up the bogey of anti-Islamic feeling. Oh, you are being anti-Islamic, which is not good. So they will do whatever they want, but you can't do anything to them. This is the idea in India of secularism, which now we are trying to correct. Okay? The real secularism is equal treatment for all. It doesn't mean special treatment for only the Muslims, which was unfortunately Gandhi's idea and Nehru's idea. Let me tell you something interesting, okay? Then you will understand about Gandhi's ahimsa. Today only I was reading, I've been reading a lot about Subhash Chandra Bose, and today I have got a book on Surendra Mohan Ghosh. You know that Surendra Mohan Ghosh was very close to Sri Aurobindo. You know that, na? And when he came here, he used to often come, and Sri Aurobindo used to say, Surendra Mohan Ghosh is my man in Parliament. Okay. After India was free for 3 years, Surendra Mohan Ghosh used to come regularly and tell what is happening. Now I'll tell you an interesting story how the idea of ahimsa is completely misunderstood in India as well, and it's all coming from Gandhi and Nehru. Okay. I'll tell you this story. Surendra Mohan Ghosh became the Bengal, in Bengal he became the leader of the freedom movement. And the after the Chaura Chori incident, okay, you know the Chaura Chori incident, na? There was when Gandhi announced that I will give you freedom in 1 year's time, but please don't do anything violent. Okay, this was it. He says, I'll give you freedom in 1 year's time. I'll be able to do it, but don't do any in this 1 year. Resist all violent acts, because the Bengal movement, you know, was full of revolutionary ideas. Okay? They were getting pistols and all that, and they were killing also many Englishmen. Okay? So then they agreed. Okay, they agreed. But then towards the end of the year, what happened was that there was an incident where some in Chaura Chori, it was in North India somewhere, Bihar or UP or somewhere. I don't remember. It is a small village. And the police fired on these peaceful demonstrators, and 22 of them, I think, several died. Okay. So there was a violent reaction in the villages, and they burned down the police station. And when they burn, this is a very famous incident in Indian revolutionary history. And when they burned down the police station, about 22 policemen were burnt alive. Okay. So what did Gandhi do? He immediately called off the Quit India movement. He said, no more, I suspend the movement. Okay. So now see what happens. The idea of ahimsa is more important than the freedom movement. Okay. So then what happened was, after this incident, when they there were many Indians who were put into prison. So the Swaraj Party was made by Motilal Roy and Chittaranjan Das. Chittaranjan Das was the one who defended Sri Aurobindo in the Alipur bomb case. So when they made that party, okay, they in Bengal, they said that we are making a new party, Swaraj Party, and we will demand that the English set all the prisoners free. Political prisoners should be free. And they told Gandhi to come and inaugurate the party. And you know what Gandhi replied? Today only I have read about it in the morning. He said, I am planning non-violently to protest, and they will all be put into prison, and I am going to send thousands of people into prison, and you are asking me to release them? How can I come and inaugurate your party? I can't do it. So just put all this in proper perspective, and you will see how the idea of ahimsa can be very well misunderstood. Okay? Because we are reading these 3 chapters on war and violence, I am telling you these things. So now, when you put all these things together, it becomes clear. When someone is trying to harm you, you have the right to defend yourself, but without anger, without rancor, without any hatred. That's the thing. And that's not easy. It's not easy. Okay. So, what Yasmin said just now, today in the morning itself, if you want, I'll send you that that video, which is there, it has come today on WhatsApp. Okay, it says that the Muslims, there's a document, and she's quoting from the document. Their idea is to destroy American, the nation and the civilization. Western civilization is corrupt and rotten, and we have to replace it with the Islamic civilization. That is their idea. And that's why what they do, everywhere they slowly infiltrate. Okay? And this video is showing how they infiltrate everywhere. Okay? And the West is very happily allowing them positions and all that. Why? Because of the idea of equality and tolerance. Okay? And they are doing that very happily, but not realizing that they may be destroying themselves. So this idea has now become quite understandable in India, and yet the Congress party is still following this policy of appeasement, which is absolutely wrong. Now, I have spent enough time on this. Pardon?
Rangada, is it
Yeah.
possible to destroy anybody without the will of the divine?
The will of the divine is up there, but when it comes down, okay, of course it is being done. When it is done in the wrong way, with anger, and a murderer is killing someone for stealing his property, do you think it's a divine will?
That is why the Parshuram was born, no? To kill the Kshatriyas.
That's a stage. That's a stage of evolution. Parshuram is a vital man. Okay? He is the vital man, but he is replaced by the mental man, Rama. Okay? The Dashavatar that you are quoting is an idea of evolution. First of all, there is the fish, only in water. Then there is a small progress. There is an amphibian, tortoise, kurma, which comes onto the land. Then again, that kurma is very slow and so it gets replaced by the boar. Okay, so then there is the animal man, na? Narasimha. Yeah.
Narasimha.
Yeah. Then slowly, this is the idea of evolution, slowly. Then Parashurama comes, who is the vital man. He is the vital man. He is representative of vital. He is the vital. Then he is replaced by the mental man. And then finally the Kalki, the last avatar. So Parashuram is that. So when you say, can you kill anything without the divine will? It depends at which level you are talking. If you are at a level of the higher spiritual levels, you cannot do anything because the ego disappears and you are not doing anything without the divine will. Okay? That is the reason why, this is now you will understand why Arjuna says, I will not be able to kill because it is wrong. But why? Because he is at the lower level of the mental man. He cannot understand the principle of ahimsa without rancor and without any anger and hatred. So he says, I will not fight. I can't do this. But then exactly, that's what Sri Krishna explains to him, that it can be done if you go to another level of consciousness. That's the whole idea. So when you go to another level of consciousness where you are carrying out not your own egoistic actions, but the divine will, there the divine is telling you what to do and not to do. So the question, can we do anything without the divine will? Of course we can. When we are being greedy, when we are being selfish, we are being full of all sorts of wrong passions and wrong ideas. This is all not the divine will. It's a perversion of the divine will. Okay? It's a perversion.
But Rangada, we have not reached that stage where we can, take some attack without being angry. Then
Agreed.
what do we do?
Agreed.
So in anger, do we react or we don't react?
You have to try to get rid of your anger. At this level, what you have to do is to try and get rid of your anger, your desire, your ego. That is what it's all about.
But that takes such a long time, full lifetime of yoga or sadhana it takes. So at the moment, what do we do?
So what you can do, you are assuming that it should be possible to do it at this level. It is not possible. The laws of Prakriti hold. So your question that it should be possible to do it, no, it is not possible. But you have to try. It's only by trial and doing effort, going on effort, slowly, slowly it will change. Nobody is telling you that you can do the right action immediately in 3 days' time. Nobody is telling you that. Okay? Of course you can't. Nature is not so easily disposable. Your nature will assert itself. But at least have the right idea and know that what I am doing is wrong. Okay? But you will be forced to do it because nature will control you. Remember, we are saying, okay, all these ideas are very much linked together. So you have to relate all these ideas together. At the lower level, you are not in control. We keep saying this, but you have to link all these ideas. You are not in control at all. Your body mind life is in control of you. So the soul is sleeping in our condition. So you are not going to do the right action. But you have to understand as you slowly start getting more and more values come in, you realize that what I'm doing is not right. Then you make an effort. Okay. But at one point, there is no effort even. What I'm doing is perfectly okay. Okay. So it's a question of gradation at which level you are. So the whole idea of the Gita is rise to another level of consciousness. In fact, the last chapter, the Gita is very interesting. Gita is valid for everybody. Gita is telling the ordinary man who lives an ordinary life, try to bring some mental and moral ideas into your life. Try and live by dharma. Okay? So that is the first advice to the man who is at a very ordinary animal level. Try to live by dharma, try to be more moral than what you are. To the moral man, the Gita's advice is don't be stuck in morality, try to rise to a spiritual level. Okay? Then to the spiritual man, the Gita's advice is, or rather Srinda's advice, it becomes that rise to the supramental level and do God's work. So this is a gradation. The Gita is valid for everybody and everybody is given different advice according to the level of consciousness that they are in. You cannot give advice to a person who is at a lower level. You cannot give a higher value advice. It doesn't work. It's like people say playing in front of a bhans, a buffalo. You play,
Bajana.
yeah,
Yes.
bean bajana in front of it. It doesn't work. Okay, so this is what one has to understand. So the question,
Hello.
yes, tell me.
Can I read something from Anil Baran's book of 8th August 1926?
Go ahead.
Anil Baran says, which is a greater danger, Mohammedanism or Christianity? Sri Aurobindo's answer, Mohammedanism is certainly more dangerous than Christianity.
Yes.
Anil Baran.
Yeah.
But they are in a minority. How can they harm the Hindus? Sri Aurobindo's answer, the Christians were in a minority when they overran Europe.
Yeah.
Anil Baran. But they brought light with them. Sri Aurobindo. The Greeks had more light than the Christians who converted them. At that time, there was Gnosticism in Greece and they were developing agnosticism and so forth. The Christians brought darkness rather than light. Afterwards, the Arabs brought light to Europe. That has always been the case with aggressive religions.
Yes.
They tend to overrun the earth.
Yes.
Hinduism, on the other hand, is passive, and there lies the danger.
That's
Anil
right.
Baran.
Yeah.
How can this passivity of the Hindus be cured? Sri Aurobindo. By movement and activity.
There you
Anil Baran. What sort of movement? Sri Aurobindo. Any movement, of course, We can help the Hindu Sanganthan movement by exerting yogic force, and that is far superior to the method of platform speeches and newspaper articles. Then there is this other person, Shritij.
Hmm.
Is a spiritual movement necessary for the awakening of the Hindus and not for others? Sri Aurobindo, yes. Different people have different characteristics. Anil Baran, what is the spiritual movement required for the Hindus and how is that going to be brought about?
Hmm.
Sri Aurobindo, have you read the history of India? Take the case of Shivaji in Maharashtra,
Hmm.
of Pratap Paditya in Bengal. During the Swadeshi movement, all the leaders were influenced by some guru or spiritual man.
Hmm.
We were influenced more by Ramakrishna and Vivekananda than by Dadabhai Nauroji and others.
Yeah, exactly. So that is exactly the thing. In another place, someone asks Sri Aurobindo about the Muslims and all that. So Sri Aurobindo says the Hindus are tolerant normally and gentle normally, but the Muslims they want to actually they are very intolerant of others, and that is well known. It's a historical fact. They went about conquering and spreading Islam by the sword. Either you choose the Quran or you have to be killed. The Kafirs, okay, that is their principle. It is your duty to kill the Kafirs. You are doing God's work. So when someone is so intolerant, how are you going to, with tolerance, how are you going to counter them? You can't. So when someone is intent on destroying you, you have to take up arms and destroy them. And at our level, that is not possible without anger. Okay, but you have the right to defend yourself. So defend yourself. So that is the whole point. That is now what is coming slowly. And in India, the problem is that we have been taught this ahimsa for so many years, thousands of years, that it is seeped into our nation. And the Muslims, what they have done, it is all well documented. It's not something. They have destroyed all the temples in India. Okay. Today, the archaeological department is headed by a Muslim, and he is making a statement that yes, it is true that all Hindu temples were erased and mosques were put in their place. And when you dig archaeologically, you find that the stones of the temples were all Hindu temples. So he is himself, he is a Muslim himself, and he is saying that yes, this is a fact. And I'm not even talking about the killing of the Hindus and the rape, okay? Even the Somnath temple in Gujarat, 17 times it was destroyed. And again rebuilt, okay? And even just imagine, when the British came to India, they allowed the Christians and the Muslims to have their religion without interference. The churches and the mosques were allowed to have their own uh, administration and also their own money collection. But the Hindus, their temples were always a source of wealth. Okay, and the English introduced governance of these temples. They did not do anything about the mosques and the churches. But in India, because all that wealth was coming in, it's called the Religious Endowment Bill. Okay, so the Hindu temples were all controlled by the government, and still today that is happening. And there is a movement today to set this government control over Indian temples free. Okay. Otherwise, earlier there was a very interesting video which said that the temples, okay, were the source of education, source of social welfare schemes. Okay, it was they who were doing everything because the money used to come in and the money used to be used for the society, for the collectivity. Okay, but all that was destroyed when the money was being taken away. And today in India, so many small temples, very small ones, are all in dilapidated condition. The archaeological society is trying to do something, And there's one gentleman in the Hindu newspaper, who is very religious. One editor is absolutely communist and he has got nothing of the spiritual tendency in him. But there's another man who is very fond of Indian, I can't remember his name. I may not make, I'll make a mistake. But he is very much interested in the restoration of temples and music, Indian music and all. So they are trying to do this. But this is the whole problem, that you don't know how to defend yourself. That's why there are any number of videos today coming on WhatsApp and other places. Oh, Hindus, wake up. And that's exactly what you read just now about how to wake these sleeping Indians. Okay, most of the Hindus are sleeping. They don't know the dangers. Slowly there's an awakening now. Okay, so it was a very interesting discussion, but this discussion was necessary because then you will understand the need of war. As he says very clearly, so long as man is at a mental and vital level, okay, war cannot be eliminated. It cannot be. But when you have gone to a spiritual level of consciousness, then it is possible to, even at the spiritual level it may not be possible, but at the supramental level, war will disappear. And that means not from the physical world, but only in the community, which will be comprised of only the supramental beings. In their society, there can be no war. But the war will continue. You think the animals will start loving each other? No, they will kill each other. The human beings also will do that. So long as you are in a lower consciousness, the dualities apply. And the dualities are kindness and cruelty, gentleness and harshness. It will continue. Okay? But when man comes with his idea, he evolves from an animal man to a mental man, he starts understanding the need for changing himself. That's part of the evolution. So all these ideas are linked. Simply one idea if you take, then there can be a lot of confusion. But when you put all these ideas together, slowly the picture emerges. Okay. So we have spent a lot of time today on the on these ideas of the war, because it's not very easy to understand that. It's very easy to say war is bad. Okay, war is bad, violence is bad, killing is bad. Yes, 90% of the time, when it is done with the wrong attitude, it is bad. But it is possible to do it without the negative emotions. That is possible. And sometimes it is necessary to do that. Okay, so
Rangada, can I ask a question?
go ahead.
Yeah, the nation, the value of nation, and how Sri Aurobindo views the status of nation in his evolutionary scheme, because many socialists, the leftist people in Western and even here, they are very negative. They are very negative about culture, tradition, religion, and the idea of nation. I
Yes.
think the same thing happened very strongly in America, and even here in Korea, and the Hindu-Muslim conflict. That's the that's the big example too. So what is the as I remember, Sri Aurobindo also mentioned nation is kind of in the process, not the eternal entity. But in this situation now, the nation seems very important as
Yes.
an ideal we need to keep for our spiritual progress. So, but if we say this one, any patriotism, even in Korea or in America, it's very, trivialized. They easily attack us like, oh, you exclusivism, you exclusivist, you are nationalist. They attack that way. But
Yeah.
but seeing the situation here, nation seems important in our progress. So yeah, if you say something about that, the nation, the
Yes.
Shurbindus, yeah.
Yes. What you are raising is a very interesting question. And again, I insist, it goes back to evolution. Okay. At a certain level, okay, nationhood, love of country is very necessary. But if you look at it from another angle, from a higher angle, it's a narrowness. Why are you loving only your country? Why don't you love other countries? Isn't it? If you love something more, and you, so what Srivno says, normally, okay, The idea of nationhood, when you are a nationalist, it is essentially coming from the herd instinct. Okay, the animals also herd together, and when there is an attack on them, the whole herd hits back. On your many videos on National Geographic and Discovery channels, you will see that when a lion comes and hits a buffalo, the entire buffalo group, they come and attack the lion. Okay, so it's a herd instinct. So you want to, because the principle of individuality and the principle of collectivity are always there together. Again, we come back to the idea of dualities. Okay, so at this level, yes, it is very necessary. But is it nationalism a narrowness? But at what level? That's the whole point. Can you practice wideness when you are in the lower consciousness? Very difficult. That's what Sumki also pointed out. But the idea that when you are only nationalistic, it is narrow. Okay, you must get beyond your narrow ideas. So the ideas are coming, and the ideas are essentially right, but you can't apply them to a lower level. That's the whole point. When you become spiritual, you realize that humanity is more important than your own community. Okay. So what Sumki raised is absolutely correct. There are many who are at a higher level of thinking, and they say that nationalism is a narrowness. Why don't you think in terms of humanity? But is everybody capable of doing that? Again, we come back to the idea of which level you are. And you can't apply the values of a higher value, and higher level to lower levels, because there'll be a lot of problem. You can't apply the principle of kindness and gentleness to those who are trying to kill you. Okay. So nationalism also is of that nature. It is very necessary to love your country, but without narrowness. Okay. That's our point. So it's a little subtle, but the point that Sumki raised is very valid. But you have to see where it is applicable. Okay. If you are really at a level where you are not narrow in your views, of course nationalism is nothing but a herd instinct. These same those words. Okay. Patriotism is nothing but a herd instinct at a higher level. But at the lower level, it is very necessary. Because if you don't love your country, you are not going to defend it when necessary. No? So it depends at which level you are. See, Sri Aurobindo has a very interesting chapter in the synthesis of yoga. Standards of conduct. Okay. And there are 4 standards. He boils it down to 4 standards of conduct only. Okay. The first level is egoism. Okay. When you are an animal, the animal is foraging and foraging for itself. It is seeking food, and when it meets another animal which is food for it, it kills it. Perfectly valid. Okay. A lion eats a goat or a deer, and it's perfectly valid for it. There's no question of sin there. Okay, that's a level 1. You do, even animal human beings, okay, animal men, they act according to their ego, and it is necessary. Okay, because they are at that level, they have to develop themselves. So the first standard of conduct is ego. So don't be critical of them. Understand their position, number 1. Secondly, the second standard of conduct is the social conduct. Because if you are egoistic, you are going to disturb your neighbors. Okay, you are going to do things which your neighbors will not like. So society steps in and says, you can do this much, but you can't do anything else. Okay? Even this is a social standard. You can't play music in the middle of the night. You're going to disturb your neighbor. You can't blare up. That's a problem in India today. They call it azan. Okay, the Muslims go on 5 o'clock in the morning. They wake up and start reciting the Quran. Okay, loudly, a loudspeaker 5 miles all around. Everybody will hear. Whether you want it or not, you'll have to wake up. Okay, so this is now in India we have passed an order that neither the temples nor the Muslims should have the right to use loudspeakers. They can use loudspeakers inside the mosque or inside the temple, but not outside, because that disturbs others. You are disturbing that. So this is the second standard of conduct. This social standard. Society is imposing conditions on the human beings, okay, on individuals. The third standard of conduct is the moral standard. Morality comes in. The idea of good and bad. Okay. So even a good example of social standard is you can't cheat, you can't thief, you can't steal other people's properties, you can't kill others. These are all ideas which are there at the social level. Even the traffic light, the red light says you can't cross because you will be creating social havoc if you do that. So that's a good example of social law. Then the moral law comes in. Okay? The moral law, morality, ethics. The individual sees and thinks that what is good and bad, and he makes laws. Okay? He says that this you should do and that you should not do. This is the morality. It is certainly higher. That's the mental man. Okay, Parashuram is the one who is at the animal level. Okay, not really animal level, but he is at the violent man. He is the violent man. Okay? He understands only his own nature. So this is the third standard, morality. And the last standard, no laws at all, spiritual law. You are following what the divine is telling you to do. So the whole question comes down to this, at which level are you applying your principle? The principle of narrowness and nationalism being bad is perfectly valid at a slightly higher level, but it is not valid to the animal man. You have to have love of country and you have to defend yourselves. I hope the idea has become clear, but the idea of levels of consciousness is very, very important. Okay? You can't apply one law to another level of consciousness. Just like even in nations, no? Some laws are there in India which are not there in the West. Okay? Drugs, for instance. In Singapore, if you are caught with drugs, you will be simply hanged. There is no question of any mercy. In India, you are put into jail perhaps. But in Sweden, you are allowed to have drugs. Okay. I'm only giving an idea that different countries have different laws. So when you think of the physical world, the vital world, and the mental world, and the spiritual worlds, they are all worlds. They are all different territories. Laws there go on changing. Everything is relative. This is what one has to understand. So when one formulates one's questions, one has to be pretty clear in one's mind as to exactly what is applicable at what level. And you have to understand. Okay? So.
But Rangada, is there a spiritual significance in the idea of nation, like the Paramata, the Mother India?
Yeah.
I think the mother mentioned once that the Mother India, you can imagine India as the mother goddess. So I don't know, but she may have mentioned that some sort of a spiritual being or spiritual significance in a nation, whether it's India, Korea, or America.
Exactly. What you're saying is right. And that also comes back to the idea of the personal and the impersonal. Okay. To everything which is impersonal, there is a personal aspect. India certainly has a goddess. Okay. The soul of India, collective soul of India is there. It's a entity. Okay. In India we are fully aware of that. Okay. Bharat Mata. Every nation which has got a clear civilization, there is a soul to that nation. There is a collective soul and an individual soul also. Now, sometimes politically, things are created which don't have souls. Okay, take for instance the Pakistan. Okay, it was created politically for political gain. When the British left, they didn't want India to be free, so really free, and so they made Pakistan. But there is no subtler entity and truth to Pakistan. That's the reason why one day in the next 2-3 years, it is going to disappear. Okay. So that is the thing. Take for instance any collectivity which has got a real entity is a nation, and there is an entity which is the true entity of it, the soul, collective soul is there, but not for all collectivities. Okay, it is there everywhere. Korea definitely has a clear distinction. But the distinction between North Korea and South Korea is political. Okay, that is sure to disappear one day. It may take time, but it's sure to disappear. Okay. Yeah. What you asked today was a very interesting question, Sumki. Yeah, about nationalism and also the soul, the collective soul of every nation. That's true. Okay, so
I feel like India. I feel like India, like a mother.
that's
So,
right. Yeah. Okay, then I think it's time today, but I don't know. I feel it helped me a lot to express the ideas clearly. So that's why I went into all these different incidents today that I have been coming across in the last 2-3 days. There's a lot of things going on the on WhatsApp. All these videos are coming and ideas are being thrown, which explain the concepts very well. But definitely, okay, there's a very interesting thing between the Muslims and the Christians. What is the difference? Okay, the Christians also think that their religion is the only religion which is valid. And they also try to impose their religion, but they don't do it through violence. They do it through inducements. They do it through inducements. Come and become a Christian, and we'll make you, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. In India, it's happening all the time. It has happened uh, everywhere else also. They have done that. Okay, they do it by what is called proselytizing. Proselytizing is preaching and spreading Christianity because they feel that they are doing something good. Okay, they are doing good if the people they are converting are at an animal level. Okay, they are doing good. But a culture which is at a higher level, they are not doing any good to them. That's the reason why even today, after all the efforts of the Europeans to Christianize India, it has not been able to do it. 85% are still Hindus. It is the only country. In many other countries, even in India, the Northeast, okay, where there was no education and no real culture, they were all made into Christians. Okay, even the poor in our many districts, they all became Christians. I'm not trying to denigrate, but this is the truth that they try to spread their religion.
But Ranga, the crusades were there. That was with violence.
Yeah, that's right. So in the beginning it was like that, but they realized that that's wrong. So now they do it through persuasion. Okay.
Yes.
They do it through persuasion. I know of one boy opposite the tennis ground who had a small house, and the Kotharis, they have bought that whole place now. Okay. So there was this boy, his name was Ramu, and there was another boy called Armugam. Okay. They were working in the press with me. But they became Christians, and their name remained still Armugam and Ramu, but they became Christians. Overnight, I tell you, I've seen this myself. Overnight, they had a motorcycle, and what do they have to do? They have to go into the villages and preach that Krishna is wrong, Vishnu is wrong, Brahma is wrong, only Christ is right. This is what they have to do. They have told me themselves. Okay? So this is what they do by persuasion. So that's why there are laws in India which forbid conversion by force. But if you want to become yourself by your own will, fine, no problem. Because the individual freedom cannot be stopped. You have to allow individual freedom. But by persuasion and all, there are anti-conversion laws in India because of that. Okay, it's a very difficult thing to enforce because how will you enforce it? How will you know what the whether it is voluntary or involuntary? Very difficult. That's a difficulty. But the Christians are doing it softly, and the Muslims are doing it in a hard way. Okay, that's the only difference. Therefore, you have to protect yourself.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
You know, initially the Christians were very violent and they had the holy wars.
Yes.
And because of the holy wars, they had gone to Egypt and destroyed a lot of the monuments in Egypt and even in Israel.
Yeah.
Then slowly, the holy wars stopped.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
now they are into persuasion.
That's right.
But Christianity is on a decline because now they don't have people who are willing to become nuns and priests. So there is a great decline. And in a city like Bombay, where we had such a large Christian population,
Yeah.
people don't want to become priests. So some of the big churches,
Yeah.
which used to have a mass every day in the evening, because of lack of people and priests, they have stopped.
That is one.
And some of the
Yeah.
and Saint Xavier's College, where Amal had gone,
Yes.
was always ruled by Christian priests. Now today, there are no Christian priests in Saint Xavier's College, and there is a Maharashtrian who's become the principal of the college.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's one reason.
Christianity is declining.
Yes.
It's declining, and the Muslims are progressing.
Yes, that's right. Quite correct. But the decline of Christians is because of two reasons. One is what you are saying, the materialistic civilization is having its effect. But the other is also that the ideas also are coming. Many are realizing that many of the ideas in Christianity, okay, are very defective. For instance, they don't agree with science at all, whereas that problem was never there with Hinduism. Okay, and the other idea that God created the world in 7 days. Okay, that is God created man. There is no evolution. All these ideas are very repulsive to the thinking man. So that's another reason why Christianity is declining. Okay? And also they have been shown that many of their ideas are wrong. Today, for instance, reincarnation has become almost an accepted fact because there are so many interesting cases where you are proved that there is reincarnation. But the Christians don't believe in reincarnation. So all these things are contributing to the decline of, but I can tell you one thing, the decline is very slow. It's not going to be, Christianity is not going to disappear quickly. Okay. But over time, religion as such, okay, whether it be Hindu or Christian or Muslim, religion as such will decline and it will go to the real spiritual values. It will take time, but that is bound to happen. Okay. I think we have to stop here today. We have gone to 8:43. So, au revoir, everybody. And I hope that
Merci beaucoup.
I hope that this discussion has been very interesting and instructive. I personally, I've collected all these ideas together today because of the basic understanding that while war is bad, violence is bad, ahimsa is the best virtue. So all these ideas you have to take with a pinch of salt. It is true, but it is not absolute truth. That's the whole point. Okay. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you.